We're back to Neil Haley Show. My guest today is David Hollenbach of Hollenbach Leadership. David, how are you? And you wrote an article because you're kind of wanted to respond to someone else's commentary. And I think this is a topic that's going to be great for the podcast and also great for the radio show because it really gets people thinking more about leadership and more about how you lead your people and what you think the results are for your people.
Yeah, absolutely. It was interesting because this post that that was sent to me, it was just somebody asking me what my thoughts are on this particular topic, and the post was rule 1 for humans: the easier it is for people to do something, the more they will do it. Corollary to rule 1: if you want people to do more of something, make it easier, not harder. Fix the environment, not people. So while the statement, the easier it is for people to do something, the more they will do it, that generally aligns with the concept of ease of use and the principles of behavioral economics. It just struck me as being an oversimplification of something that is important to discuss. I do believe it is important for leaders to strive, work really hard at removing obstacles for their people. Yes, I believe that is true. However, I think it's more important to know your people. Know what motivates them, know what drives them. Sometimes it's the environment, but other times it is the people. It is the last part of that statement where it says fix the environment, not the people. Okay, well, sometimes you got to fix the people because it's the people that create a toxic environment. So saying you need to fix the environment, not the people, I think is just an assumption that shouldn't be made. I think that if things are bad within an organization, you have to first look at the leadership and who has created the culture within that organization. It may be there's some bad apples that are constantly undermining the mission of the organization because they're just not happy with where they're at in life or something. I don't know. But it's important for leadership to know their people. So on the topic of ease of use, there's some considerations. So ease of use is important, but people's motivation and preferences also play a significant role in their decisions. So even if something is easy to accomplish, individuals may not do it if they lack motivation or if it fails to align with their preferences and values. So in some instances, people may continue to use a more difficult method to accomplish a task simply because of inertia or habit, or this is the way that they were trained to do something. They've been doing it this way for 10 years and it's always worked well for them, and they can accomplish it rather quickly the way that they know how to do it. And when things change, well, that will slow down the process of accomplishing it. So there's pros and cons to like trying to make something easier for people. I think a lot of times when we want to make changes, we need to involve the group, the people that we're leading, involve them in the changes.
Right.
What's going to make it better for the team,
And that's what a leader has to do. And I'm learning this leadership now further as I remember before when I've led people or I've taught people. You got to really get feedback from them. You got to see what they really want. You don't make things easier. You make things what their expectations, how they feel it's a comfortable environment, but yet produce because it's who you hire. I mean, in the fire, you get to choose who you hire, right, David? Unless you didn't hire them, but at least the fire department shows who to hire. So I don't get this whole thought process of make things easier, because if you make things easier, you're going to have mediocre talents.
Yeah. I mean, I just that statement struck me the wrong way, and I understand what they're trying to say, but it really is an oversimplification, and you know,
It's the dummying down of workforce. That
yeah,
if we want to keep the workforce, we have to go back to the participation trophy again, right? We have to go back to, we can't really ruffle their feathers, right? Well, I think that's a bunch of malarkey. And I think it's the reason that we're seeing this is our work environment has changed, right? So when you're looking at the age group now, David, it's coming into your firehouse, right? They're not used to working with people. So the first thing they need to do is learn people skills, because these kids, they stay on the phones all the time. They stay on the internet and they really don't work in an environment together. So it's a lot of programming. Wouldn't you agree? Because of how they have grown up.
yeah. I mean, that's a whole other topic, with the new generation coming in, because you're right. Uh, the people that are just now coming into the workforce, how they grew up is much different. How you grew up, how I grew up, how a lot of people in leadership positions grew up. And when you look at public safety, law enforcement, fire department, traditionally these were men and women that you know were familiar with what it was like to work with their hands. Maybe they served in the military. Maybe they did, you know, labor. Like they had like construction jobs. They knew their way around a toolbox. That a lot of times now, what you'll find is new firefighters have never mowed a lawn. You know, don't know how to start a lawnmower.
Right.
How to use a chainsaw, what a socket wrench is, what a crescent wrench is. Like, these are things that you need to know in that field, right?
Right.
Well, teaching them how to be more empathetic. So that's another concept, another piece of leadership, is that emotional intelligence piece, how to have empathy. And when you're working with the public, how to communicate effectively with them, and build rapport in a short period of time when you're trying to help somebody overcome whatever emergency they're having.
Right,
Um,
David. So let me just plug this in. When are robots coming to the fire force? And that someone like you would be managing that fire group because of the way the work environment's about to change. Just bringing up something that you're going to have police officers.
it's already a reality. Robots are already within the fire service and law enforcement. When I was the chief of special operations, we had a robot that we could drive into a hazardous environment, whether there was a chemical spill, a radiological event, or maybe it was an explosive environment. Um, we could drive this robot in, had cameras on it, and um, we would work in tandem with the sheriff's office or the FBI, whether it was like a clandestine lab or a suspected explosive device, something like that. We could use our robot, or EOD, they had their own robot as well. Um, but
Wow.
yeah, I mean, drones, that's
So so
another.
then so then what do we do? Because I mean, like, I look at things now that saying simpler versus say, what are you guys going to do? We have to look at the formation in our school system. We have to look at the formation in so many ways before they come to the fire system to understand they got to build these skills or they're going to be replaced. And someone like you with high skills will be doing with AI and robots and not going into the houses to save lives. The robots will. I mean, this we're going down the line, but iRobot's coming. So I think that the only way these guys can save their jobs and save what they do is they really got to start forming themselves to understand how to work with other people. And that's the challenge that you were really good at, is you built a team rapport from the beginning when you have a team, right? And you didn't go and make it easier. You built a team.
Right. And that's another thing. And I believe we had this conversation several weeks back where we talked about, sometimes our work, the actual work itself, is the reward in and of itself, helping people on the worst day of their life.
Yeah.
Breathing life back into an infant's broken body. These are things that you train for and you work hard. You have to work hard to get it right when all the pressure is on you to do the right thing the first time.
Exactly.
This is, so you can't just say, well, let's do it the easy way. There's an easier way to do this. No, there has to be, when you're training to save lives, when you're training personnel to go into hazardous environments, into stressful environments, you can't just throw them into that environment and expect them to do well. You have to train them. And when you're doing the training, adding artificial stressors into it so that when their heart rate is elevated, when the pressure is on them and somebody's life is on the line and their decision is the difference between life and death, that's a lot of pressure. And you want them to be able to have these critical thinking skills when the weight of the world is on their shoulders, So you have to inject some artificial stressors into the training that you do, whether you make it more physically difficult or arduous. You have them doing difficult calculations in their head or making, tough decisions on the training ground, while throwing multiple issues at them at the same time.
Right. So again, that the topic again, your article's available on your LinkedIn, David Hollenbach. Check you out on LinkedIn. Comment on this article, but also go to hollenbachleadership.com for all these great resources. I wouldn't give up on anyone because people flat out told me you can't build a U.S. team in remote. You have to go overseas. It's a better deal. And I'm like, no, it's not. There are good workers out there that really want to work hard. You just got to find and hire the right people. So it goes back to the fire department in their recruiting process to find people that have been well formed by their parents, well formed by schools, that they're the perfect people to hire. Not just hiring to have a warm body, but hiring the right people. And that can be a discussion for next show, because I'm sure you went through the interview process and hiring people as well for certain positions. And we could talk about that maybe next week.
Yeah. We actually retooled the selection process for special operations in the department I was in. When I took over special operations, that was one of the things that I was charged with doing, was to retool the selection process.
Right.
So, yeah.
We appreciate it, David. Great stuff. All right, you're listening and watching the Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back in just a moment.